All right, moving forward to the upper body. The first one I'm going to demonstrate here, it's called the puppy dog. There are other names for it too. It's kind of like a modified child's pose. If you've ever done any kind of yoga or if you know about yoga, this is basically it. So it's modified to be more intense on the upper body and the shoulders, maybe even the lats and the back, right, than it is on the lower body. So what we're doing here is we're going to get our hands very far out in front of us, but we're not going to sit our hips all the way back. Now the reason for this, if we sit all the way back with this, all of a sudden we lose some leverage on the upper body, right? So we can still kind of pull and feel in the shoulders, but not quite as much as if we sit up like this, right? With our hips stacked above our knees, kind of. So whatever position is comfortable for you with your legs, you do that. Mine is right here, and then I'm leaning forward into the upper body. So I'm pressing my palms down, I'm pushing my head down towards the mat. I feel this compression in my shoulders a little bit, a stretch in the back and the lats and the upper back. And that's the position we're holding for the puppy dog. Now, next one, saddle archer. I kind of picked these stretches out just to make sure that we're hitting the full body and every little muscle within a full body routine that I would do. So some of these are going to seem like they're kind of obscure, but trust me, it's all for a purpose. When you see the whole thing together, you'll realize it's just a full body routine. So this one is called the saddle archer. Now this one is interesting because you can do it a couple different ways. Depending on your flexibility level, you can use a band or a strap for this if you need it. That's what I usually do, but right now I'm going to be showing you what I can do without it. So, saddle position, right? Knees bent, sitting on the feet, kind of top of the foot is flat against the ground. From here, the archer position is where we bring one arm up like this, right? Like you're going to pull an arrow out of your quiver there. And then you're bringing the other hand on the elbow and just pulling gently down, right? So this is one way to do the archer position if you don't have the flexibility to reach your hand under and touch your hands together. This is officially what the archer position is. So if you can use a band or a strap for this, or if you can just touch your hands together behind your back, then that's fine. But I do this one because I want to feel more of a stretch on the tricep. So I can't do it, obviously, but it would look something like that, right? And you're touching your hands together. So then on the other side, the same thing. Both over the head and behind the head, kind of gently pulling with the elbow, but you're sitting in this position the whole time, so you'll still feel a little stretch on the quads, knees, ankles, right, as you do this. Next one is the seal. This one is a pretty common pose too. Basically, you're just getting flat on the floor. You're taking your hands, you're pushing yourself up to pretty much full extension if you can. Now notice my arms are out in front of me. That's because my wrist is hurting, but ideally you'd be right under yourself here, right, and do that. You don't want to lift your hips up off the floor too much though. So whatever it takes, you can do this. Relax the glutes. It's a tendency to kind of squeeze the glutes for protection for the lower back, but just let yourself relax into this pose. If this is too intense for you, go down to your forearms, right? And this is perfectly fine. As long as you feel a little bit of compression in the low back, a little bit of stretch in the abs probably, and you can relax in this pose, it doesn't matter. So, next, single leg forward fold. Let's see. So this one, you can also use a band or a strap for to kind of loop around your foot and gently pull, gently. Remember, it's still a passive stretch. This is single leg one, and in this one, we're actually keeping the opposite leg kind of folded in front of us. So there are other poses where you'd fold it back behind you. This one, I have it folded in front. So from here, I'm just gently reaching, right? Just letting myself fall forward over this other leg. And you should feel this kind of in the hamstring, maybe a tiny bit in the upper calf and right behind the knee, depending on how you do it, maybe even the upper back or lower back too, if you're in this pose for long enough. On the other side, folding this leg in, gently, gently reaching. Okay? So if you need to, you can also kind of hold underneath your leg here. That's how I tend to feel it more too. Next one, a standing forward fold. This one is interesting because it's like a toe touch, but it doesn't have to be forced, okay? So when I do this, I almost never keep my knees locked out unless I'm feeling really warmed up that day or I've already done it for a couple minutes, then I might do that. But to start, I actually want you to keep your knees slightly bent, maybe even more than slightly. The whole point is that you feel a stretch, a little bit in the hamstrings and a lot in the lower back over time. So you're letting yourself hang down like this. Very simple stretch. You're not reaching. You're not trying to touch your palms or your elbows on the ground. Just letting yourself hang down. Now, over the course of the stretch, let's say you get to 2 minutes and you're in this position and you're like, I don't really feel it anymore. You know, maybe a little bit in the low back, but not much here. Then you can start to straighten the knees up slowly, okay? So maybe over the course of 4 or 5 minutes, if you spend that much time in this pose, you can lock the knees out all the way. But for starters, you're just letting yourself hang down, letting the spine fold forward, okay?